Hey everybody, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of Youth Baseball Midwest. Hey everybody, welcome back into the studio. Today I've got Josh Kranawetter with us from the Rawlings Extreme. Josh, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. I'm doing well. You guys?
Doing great, bud. Thanks for coming on the show. I'd seen you around baseball, at Game 7 tournaments and stuff, and we'd talked a little bit. I'd done some video, but we finally got to meet when we did our winter workout tour for the Rawlings Extreme this last winter, and got to know you a little bit, and I've been following your teams for a little while. You got a pretty good quality team you got going on there, don't you?
We do. The boys are 9U going into 10U next year. I've had them since they've been 7, and I get a talented group. First of all, but they also enjoy the game. They enjoy working at the game, and honestly, we'll have a 2-hour practice with these guys, and when we get done with practice, I have to yell at them to get off the field an hour and a half after practice and go home. Because I'm ready to go home. My practice has been an hour and a half, and I'm sitting there watching, and they just can't get enough of it. And it tells you that you're doing something right. In this game, in any business, in any relationship, you're never going to please everybody. You're never going to be the perfect guy for everybody. Not everybody's right for you. So you got to find those matches that the personalities are there. They want to compete. They want to play the way that you're teaching the game and the way that you believe the game should be played. And that's a major part of it, right? That's a major part of our success is getting the kids to understand it's no different than going to school. You're not in recess all day. You go to school, you listen to your principal, you listen to your teacher, you do what you're asked to do. When you cross those lines on that baseball field, there's ways to approach this game and ways that you don't approach this game. And we can all have fun, and we all play at different levels of competition. We all have different athletic abilities. Right. So, but if you're that guy and you can be 9, you can be 10, you can be 15, 17, 18 years old. But if you're that guy that you have that desire that you want to push and you want to go to that next level, and whether that's just to get to a higher AAA quote unquote level or a major level, or you want to make the high school team or play a collegiate baseball, then you need to understand that there's certain ways that you need to handle your stuff when you walk into a gym or across the lines, right? And you can't just treat it like it's recess and I'm just out there to have fun. We are all out there to have fun, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But there's also certain ways to handle yourself and to make yourself better. And the more you can make younger kids understand that, the better off you're going to be.
So if you're talking to a young man that's coming out of school and is looking to get involved in youth sports, youth baseball, coaching wise, what advice would you give him, Josh?
It was hard for me to step out of baseball and to actually be that coach, right? And I had years after I got done playing to sit back and play softball or to watch certain kids play, and whether that was my nephews or whatever it may have been before I had my kids. And, I think I get more enjoyment out of this game right now coaching than I ever did playing. It was fun to play. And I you ask what would I tell a coach that – is, that's what I would tell them, is that I get more enjoyment out of this. And the reasons that is because when you're able to teach somebody something, you have knowledge of something, and you're able to teach that to someone, especially younger kids or youth players, and you see them take what you've taught them and take it out on that field and succeed with what you've taught them, there's no better feeling than that. Right. And when you can see a group of players doing it as a whole, makes it that much better for you. Right. And that's really what drives me. And in all honesty, if you're a coach, that's what should drive you. Watching players and having players come up from your past. I've got players that I had 7 years ago. I don't even get to see them anymore. But you know what? They still come up to me. They still call me coach. They still ask to go to dinner with them and talk about whether it's the relationships with their parents, whether it's how they're going, how school's going, how sports are going, where they're at right now. Me as a coach getting these calls still years down the road, man, I can't tell you how much more that means than anything else in the world.
And
showing that you're doing the right things.
and I think, you're not the only one as far as coaching when they've come back that I've heard say that and talk about those things, just in the relationships that have been built from that. And I think that's a great point. So as we're talking here, you guys got the Rawlings Extreme. Of course, everybody, we know the issues that we've been having to deal with. So as a club director, and what you're facing, what are these challenges? What are they like, and how are you guys approaching how this has come about?
It's a real pain in the butt, and you have to understand everybody's side of this. With this Corona virus going around, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. If you believe it's right, it's wrong. For instance, I have to take my beliefs and set them to the side. It doesn't matter what I believe. If I got player A and his family believes that his best situation is to stay home, stay away from that, you cannot punish that kid. You cannot hold that against that kid or that family for trying to do what's right for their families. And that's the biggest thing I try to get across to people. I had my players at the beginning of the year, one of my best players, he missed my first 3 tournaments. I didn't hold that against him. That's nonsense, right? Everybody has to make the decision best for their family, and whether that's a team that you're playing for, or whether that's I'm going to play because of this reason, or I'm not going to play because of this reason. Everybody has the right to make those decisions for these guys. And what we have to remember on the youth side is these guys aren't under contract. They're not professional baseball players. They're not collegiate baseball players.
They're kids,
right? They're kids, man. And I'm hardcore. I coach hard. My kids love me. Most of my parents love me. Most of the people that don't know me don't like me because of how I handle myself and on that field, or they feel like, I'm too hard on somebody. And that's okay. I'm not for everybody, right? But the players that come with me, they know I'm right for them, because it's not just, they don't see it the same way. They see a coach talking to them, and even when they're in the outfield, I'm a big guy on correction. If you're playing right field and you make a mistake, it's okay, but let's understand, why did you make that mistake, right? I'm not a person that sits back and lets you make the mistakes and then correct it down the road. No. In my opinion, if I'm a coach, you make a mistake in right field, third base, left field, whatever it may be, you make that mistake. That can be your fault as a player, and that's okay, right? Now, I don't say nothing as a coach, and that same play happens again. You make the same mistake again. Now, who's at fault? The player or the coach? I believe it's the coach at that point. You didn't correct him. You worried about somebody, what their thoughts were behind you, and not about what you're doing on that field to make those players better, right? And a lot of things that people don't see, that my players feel, but is that you got to build these guys back up. A lot of people see that tear down, right? They see that you're getting onto these guys and you're correcting them, and that's what they consider a tear down. Well, everybody has to be torn down to a certain extent. But the biggest part of all this is you better build them back up. You better tell them what they're doing right and what we did wrong, but how we're going to fix this. Right. It can't just be a lecture. There's got to be a little bit of learning in there and saying, hey, look, we did screw this up. We did this wrong, but here's how we're going to attack this next time. This is what we're going to do.
Well, yeah, if you're looking at, correction means to take what is wrong and make it right. And so if you say, no, this is the wrong way, this is the right way, that's in any kind of learning situation. And how you approach those things, I know some, like you said, and that you're honest with those things. I think that's very interesting, because a lot of people won't talk about themselves in this fashion, and and just say, hey, this is the way I approach it, and I appreciate what people will do or don't do, and I think that's very honest, Josh.
Absolutely. Everybody plays the game just like everybody goes about their life in a different way, right? But if you truly want your son to be one of those guys that you want him to work up and be the best he could possibly be, and everybody's level stops at some point, and some
Right.
guys are higher than the next guy, and there's no telling. God gives you ability. Okay, that's a fact. And yes, can I get that ability better? Sure. But
Right.
he's either given me that ability or he hadn't given me that ability, right? And not everybody's on that same level. Not everybody's going to get the chance to play college ball or pro ball, no matter how hard they take it at it, right? It
Right.
just don't work that way. But there are certain guys out there that they don't work hard enough and they lose out on that, whether that's the collegiate, high school, whatever it may be. And they could have been better and they could have done better for themselves, right? But it was the mentality of how they approached that game. And I was one of these guys. This is biggest thing of why I am like I am. I ran myself out of baseball to a certain extent. Now I've had 4 hip surgeries. That was a big part of me leaving baseball. But before that happened, my attitude sucked.
Right.
I would have years that I was really good, and then what happened the next year? I didn't do so good because I didn't think I needed that training in the off season. I wanted to take off. I wanted to go stay with my family. I want to go do this and I didn't care enough. And I come back in the next year and I wouldn't have a good year, and I'd have to go build those blocks up again, right?
Right.
And it's not a way to handle it. I have people that in my past that they've even said to me that, why do you say this? Why do you get online? Why do you say this? This ain't how you handled it. This ain't what you've done in the past. I don't want my kids to be like me.
Yeah.
That's why. I want them to be better than me. That's exactly what it is. I'm not talking about what I did. I can tell you, I'll be the first person to tell you or anybody else the things that I have been wrong on. I'm not, to a certain extent, am I ashamed of certain things that I could have changed, hindsight 2020? Sure.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to be ashamed of telling my stories because I want you to learn from me.
Right.
Don't make the same mistake I made, right? Be better than that.
All right, guys, we're going to get more from Coach Kranawetter in our next episode. We had a lot to talk about, so we're going to split that up just for time's sake. We want to get into our social shout-outs here with you. And we're going to start off with a St. Louis Naturals coach, Shane Eames, who had finished up the last week with his team. Here he's posting with Braxton Martinez and his son Cooper Eames at Indianapolis at Victory Field. More baseball, can't get enough, he says. Love that. Shout out to you guys. And then we're going back to the St. Louis Naturals. Congrats to the 12U Eisenhower team. They took second place at the first annual Rawlings Tigers Invitational there in Sullivan. Shout out to those guys for taking home that trophy. And last year we've got our friends up in Galesburg, Illinois. Chris Vest with his 12U Extreme team went down to Orange Beach, Alabama for the USSSA World Series. They brought home the rings. Great job, guys. Shout out to all those kids. Played their tails off down there. Congrats. We're going to have Chris on an upcoming episode talking about his club up there, so be looking for that as we move forward. I want to finish off today talking about the Jordyn Morgan Memorial Foundation first annual fundraiser baseball tournament hosted by Game 7 Baseball. Big shout out to Dave Pinning and Dave Schmidt for hosting this, being part of the community. Great job, guys. To all the umpires battling the heat out there, great job, guys. Mike and Nicole Morgan, kudos to you guys for working in the community, wanting to give back in the name of your daughter. Had to deal with a great adversity, but that's your daughter, and I think these are the things that are really great about the baseball community. And the outpouring that we saw from all the people wearing the Jordy Strong t-shirts, all the coaches, all the players, the kids understanding that it's more than a game, but a community. And there was also Coach Matthew Bell had brought a team, Prime Sports, it was on the shirt, but it was an all-star team basically that comprise kids from Kentucky and Kansas and the St. Louis area. Matthew Bell works with the Diamond Stars down in South County. But they were there representing their player, their friend, their buddy, Caleb Scanlon, who has just recently, as like 3 weeks ago, passed away from cancer. And, what Mike Morgan had said at the end there at the 13U championship presentation, talking about not taking things for granted as players, as these kids. I mean, I don't think he could have said it enough. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, not taking things for granted, being part of the community. Here are these two babies, really. Jordyn, Caleb, succumbed to terrible, horrible disease and crisis. And, that we remember them, that we continue to help other families, that we be part of the community. It is bigger than baseball. And I'm going to finish off this segment with a little bit of what Mike said there at the end and kind of let him finish it out. And we'll be back in a minute.
Jordyn never got to play baseball. She never got to play softball. She never got to run. She never got to kick a soccer ball. Don't take this game for granted, all right? Like I said, it sucks. But you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, another day, you're going to play next weekend, and you're going to battle your hearts out again, right? It's tough. It sucks, I know. But don't take this game for granted, both of you. Don't take anything for granted in life, all right? In a second, things can change. For us, it was a second for us. Jordyn, at 3 months old, got sick just like that. Changed our lives forever, all right? So don't take this game for granted. It's a fun game, and it's